Thank you. We are now recording.
You're welcome. Are you still able to see my screen? Awesome, thank you. All right, as we settle in, my colleagues are going to be putting a few key resources in the chat for both the PRISM II and PRISM III grants, including the RFP, program details, and link to the website for PRISM. The URL for the website is also on the screen. Please read these titles carefully to make sure that you are reading the document for the specific grant in which you plan to submit a proposal for. Today, we will dive into the PRISM II and III programs more specifically. We will be reviewing the purpose and goals of each program, discuss eligibility and competitive priorities, share the funded activities and grant timelines and deadline for submission. We will end the webinar with a review of other application supports available to you while you apply to either or both PRISM II and III grants. We will also ensure to leave time at the end for any questions to be typed into the Q&A feature. And as a reminder, we will be collecting these questions and answering them publicly on our PRISM II and III frequently asked questions document that will be posted on our PRISM website shortly after this webinar. I will now turn it over to my colleague Octavia to get us started.
Good morning, everyone. So where does funding come from for PRISM II and III, and why? This year, Massachusetts educators have two exciting grant opportunities, each backed by major investments in early literacy. The first one, Literacy Launch, which was state-funded, Governor Haley and the Massachusetts legislature launched Literacy Launch, a 5-year initiative funded by fair share dollars. The goal is to strengthen early literacy from ages 3 to grade 3 by expanding evidence-based, culturally and linguistically sustaining literacy instruction, ensuring most students read and write at grade level by the end of 3rd grade with the focus on equity. The Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant, otherwise known as CLSD, which is federally funded, is a federal investment supporting birth through grade 12 literacy. Massachusetts is using these funds to promote high-quality, evidence-based literacy practices, especially in communities where disparities based on race, disability, or language status impact student outcomes. Together, these funding sources power initiatives like PRISM II and PRISM III, helping schools and early education providers adopt, implement, and sustain high-quality literacy instruction that meets the needs of all learners. These investments aren't just big picture. They translate into real opportunities for districts, schools, and early education providers through two competitive grants, PRISM II and PRISM III. PRISM II is one of the literacy launch initiatives, and in the upcoming slides, I will provide you with a comprehensive overview of information related to PRISM II. The PRISM II grant program will support local education agencies, otherwise known as LEAs, including districts, charter schools, and collaboratives to evaluate, select, purchase, launch, and implement high-quality instructional materials, also known as HQIM, in grades pre-K to 3, for up to 2 years pending appropriation. The grant will empower educators with hands-on support, high-quality instructional materials, and expert guidance to bring to life relevant real-world literacy learning experiences for every student. There are 2 tracks depending on where you are in your evaluation selection journey, which we will go over shortly. Now let's talk about the PRISM II eligibility and important size considerations. So for PRISM II, all Massachusetts public school districts, charters, and collaboratives are eligible to apply and can apply with any of the following grade bands. Pre-K only. LEAs may apply for pre-K only if at the time of application, the LEA is using high-quality instructional materials for Tier 1 instruction in grades K to 3 ELA literacy. The other grade band options are pre-K to 2, pre-K to 3, K to 2, and K to 3. All schools serving selected grade bands must participate in the PRISM II program if awarded this grant, up to a cap of 15 participating schools per applicant. For applicants with more than 15 schools, the LEA will select up to 15 schools to participate. If you have more than 15 schools serving students in pre-K to 3, please don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like support in selecting which 15 schools should participate. On the other end of the spectrum, smaller applicants can, but do not have to, apply as a consortium with others. This will allow smaller applicants to expand their capacity as instructional leaders and it will allow PRISM funding to reach as many students as possible. Please visit the PRISM website for some considerations to make when forming consortia. If elected to include preschool in the PRISM II work, you must include any preschool classrooms that exist in PRISM II participating schools. In addition, you may choose to include community-based preschool programs. For recipients of the Commonwealth Preschool Partnerships Initiative, also known as CPPI grant, inclusion of the community-based preschools is required. Now let's talk about the competitive priorities. It's important to note that what we are about to discuss are just the competitive priorities, not the requirement for eligibility. Applicants who meet and demonstrate competitive priorities within their application receive numerical advantage during scoring. However, applicants do not need to have competitive priorities in order to apply. Competitive priority points also do not guarantee awards to any applicant. Having competitive priorities means that during the scoring process, applicants are awarded additional points for each competitive priority. Competitive priorities that are met are additive. In this case, eligible applicants may meet and therefore earn points for 1, 2, 3, or all of the competitive priorities for the PRISM II program grant. Again, this does not mean that only applicants that meet competitive priorities will get awarded funding. Awards for funding are determined by competitive priorities in addition to the quality of proposals. The PRISM II grant has numerous competitive priorities that fall for LEA and consortia characteristics. Schools with overall proficiency rates below the state average in grade 3 on the ELA/literacy MCAS for the 2023-24 school year. Total student population priorities, pre-K is included in the application. Schools identified as chronically underperforming, applications submitted as part of consortium. Schools that have participated in the evaluation selection network for either the 2023-24 or 2024-25 school year. Schools currently using literacy curriculum materials deemed below quality and standards in third-party reviews and planning to replace them with high-quality instructional materials. Prioritizing these factors ensure that PRISM II resources are directed to schools and programs that can make the greatest impact. As a reminder, these details can be found on the RFP, and videos will be posted shortly to further support your understanding. Now let's discuss the available participation tracks for PRISM II. This information can also be found in the RFP and program details, which Allison is also dropping in the chat. To apply for PRISM II, applicants must select one of two tracks. Track 1 is for LEAs that have completed a comprehensive evaluation process and are ready to purchase materials for implementation in the upcoming 2025 to 2026 school year. Those applying for Track 1 should plan to purchase HQIM materials in summer 2025. To qualify, they must demonstrate that they have evaluated and selected HQIM and are prepared to purchase with the grant's financial support. In the first year, Track 1 districts will purchase new HQIM, develop and regularly meet with the PRISM Curriculum Council, conduct a formal landscape analysis of current ELA/literacy curriculum and instruction, develop and refine an instructional vision and PRISM Literacy Action Plan, plan and launch year 1 of implementation following DESE's Implement Mass process for the 2025-2026 school year, establish a lesson plan preparation routine, conduct curriculum-based professional learning, engage in regular progress monitoring. All of these activities will be guided and supported by a DESE-approved and selected PRISM curriculum and instruction coach. For track two is for those that do not have HQIM in place for pre-K to 3 and have not yet completed their evaluation and selection process, but is ready, right, to evaluate, select, and purchase materials for the 2025-2026 school year. For track two, participants will develop and regularly meet with the PRISM Curriculum Council, conduct a formal landscape analysis of current ELA/literacy curriculum and instruction, develop and refine an instructional vision and PRISM literacy action plan, participate in DESE's Implement and May evaluate and select high-quality instructional materials network to evaluate, select, launch, purchase, and implement new HQIM. Engage in curriculum-based professional learning, monitor progress regularly. By the end of the school year, track two participants will purchase Tier 1 materials for the core literacy block and plan the rollout for year one of implementation following DESE's Implement and Make process. As with track one, all activities in track two will be guided and supported by a DESE-approved and selected PRISM curriculum and instruction coach. Pending funding and appropriation, track two grantees will also have the option to apply for the continuation grant to get support for the first year of HQIM implementation. Now let's spend some time learning a bit more about the funding and resources that will be provided by the PRISM II grant. This information can be found in the RFP and budgeting guide. Please make sure you are looking at the budgeting guide for the specific grant and track you are applying for. In addition to the full financial support for the activities we just went over that will be guided and supported by a DESE-approved curriculum and instruction coach, this grant will also support the development of a PRISM curriculum council that meets regularly, stipends for council members to coordinate and implement the multi-year initiative, stipends for educators working beyond their contracted hours or funds for substitute coverage to allow grant participating staff to have release time from other responsibilities. Funding supports 50% of procurement costs up to $400,000 per district for the high-quality core ELA/literacy curriculum materials, with the awardee responsible for the remaining balance. Funding will also be available for 100% of Appleseed's materials for those who select it. So for track-specific funds for FY26, track 1, track 2, participation in DESE's HQIM and selection network. Track 2 grantees will have the opportunity to apply for continuation grants in FY27, pending funding availability. Continuation funding is based on available funds and programs through PRISM activities. The continuation grants will focus on continued support from a DESE-elected PRISM and curriculum instruction coach, strengthening the PRISM Curriculum Council, and supporting the PRISM Literacy Plan, including lesson plan preparation cycles, offering ongoing support for the PRISM Literacy Plan and core literacy blocks, leading regular progress monitoring and goal setting based on walkthroughs and lesson preparation, providing curriculum-based professional learning for inclusive and culturally sustaining implementation of new materials. This funding structure aims to empower educators and improve literacy instruction across participants. I will now turn it over to Lori to provide you with a comprehensive overview of information related to PRISM III.
Thank you, Octavia. So the Partnership for Reading Success Massachusetts PRISM III grant will support local education agencies, LEAs, including districts, collaboratives, and charter schools to evaluate, select, purchase, launch, and implement high-quality instructional materials in grades 4 through 12. For up to 3.5 years of funding will be available to recipients pending appropriation. Please note that this is a longer grant program than PRISM II, aligning to the CLSD Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant funding that supports this grant. This grant will empower educators with hands-on support, high quality instructional materials, and expert guidance to bring to life relevant real world literacy experiences for every student. So now we'll dive into the eligibility requirements for PRISM III. Please refer to the PRISM III RFP for full details regarding eligibility considerations. Public school districts, collaboratives, and charter schools are eligible. Consortia of multiple participants may apply. If applying as a consortium, one applicant should apply on GEMS as the fiscal agent and name the other participating districts, charters, or collaboratives in the application. LEAs can focus on any grade band within the 4 to 12 range. LEAs selecting to focus on all grades within 4 through 12 must demonstrate capacity to support this initiative at such a large scale. All schools serving in the identified grade band must participate in the PRISM III program if awarded this grant. Similarly to PRISM II, there is a cap of up to 15 participating schools per applicant. For applicants with more than 15 schools serving grades 4 through 12, the LEA will select up to 15 schools to participate. While all LEAs are eligible to apply for the year one funding, please note that year one for PRISM III specifically refers to the period from July 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2025. This abbreviated 2-month timeframe is designed to align with the federal fiscal calendar, which runs from October 1st through September 30th. This PRISM III grant, will transition into the CLSD, the Comprehensive Literacy State Development federally funded grant, starting September 1st, 2025. Please note that the CLSD grant has additional eligibility requirements that must be met in order to be eligible for continuation. To qualify for continued funding beyond August 31st, 2025, grantees must meet the CLSD eligibility criteria. If requirements are met and funding remains available, grantees may be eligible to receive additional funding in fiscal years 26, 27, and fiscal year 2028. To be eligible to apply for continuation, LEAs must have at least one school where 50% or more students are from low-income backgrounds, and that number is 40% for high schools. This is a federal requirement for the funding. It is also important to note that if an awardee does not meet this federal low-income requirement, they can and only should apply to track 1, year 1, and will not be eligible for the continuation funding beyond August 31st, 2025. And you may be wondering why you would apply for year 1 if you are not eligible for continuation beyond August 2025. And that is a great question. Applicants that have gone through a comprehensive evaluation and selection process and are ready at this time to purchase high quality instructional materials in summer 2025, which will then be implemented during the upcoming school year, can receive funding and financial support to purchase these materials. So this short 2-month year is state funded and intended to support as many LEAs as possible before the federal low income restriction kicks in September. For more information on eligibility and deciding which track is right for you to apply for PRISM III, please refer to the PRISM III RFP. The Is PRISM III Right for You one-pager and frequently asked questions. All of these documents are linked on our PRISM website under PRISM III resources. Now let's talk about the competitive priorities for PRISM III. It's important to note that what we're about to discuss are just the competitive priorities. They are not requirements for eligibility. Applicants who meet and demonstrate competitive priorities within their application receive numerical advantage during scoring. However, applicants do not need to have competitive priorities in place in order to apply. Competitive priority points also do not guarantee an award to any applicant. Having competitive priorities means that during the scoring process, applicants are awarded additional points for each competitive priority. Competitive priorities that are met are all additive. In this case, eligible applicants may meet and therefore earn points for one, two, or all of the competitive priorities for the PRISM III grant. Again, this does not mean that only applicants that meet competitive priorities will get awarded funding. Awards for funding are determined by competitive priorities in addition to the quality of their proposals. Additional points will be awarded to applicants who meet one or more of the following competitive priorities for this grant. Schools with below average overall proportion of students meeting expectations on the 24 ELA literacy MCAS. Entities whose total student population is comprised of 10% or more students identified as English learners, 40% of students who are from low-income households, and/or, as a reminder, this is a competitive priority for the fiscal year 25 and the eligibility requirement for continuation, and is also 15%, has a 15% increase in newcomer enrollment and more than 10 newcomers enrolled over the last 2 years. Schools in chronically underperforming status and the strategic transformation region. Those that are currently participating in DESE's 24-25 Evaluate and Select HQIM Network in ELA for the grades in their proposal. Those applying as a consortium. And again, a consortium may include districts, charters, and/or collaboratives, and should represent a minimum of 3 geographically proximate schools. If awarded, LEAs in the consortium will participate in the PRISM III program as a coordinated team. Prioritizing these factors ensures that PRISM III resources are directed to schools and programs that can make the greatest impact. And again, as a reminder, these details can also be found on the RFP and will be further explained in videos that will be posted on our PRISM website. To apply for PRISM III, applicants must choose which track to pursue. There are 3 available tracks for PRISM III. For a more robust explanation of PRISM III's program details that include track activities and timeline, you can refer to the PRISM III program details document. For an overview, track 1, year 1, which for PRISM III will run from July 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2025. This track is for applicants who have already engaged in a comprehensive evaluation and selection process and are ready to purchase materials in summer 2025 to implement in the upcoming school year 25-26. Track 2, year 1, which again will run from July 1st to August 31st, 2025. And track 2 is for applicants who have not yet engaged in a comprehensive evaluation and selection process, but are ready to evaluate, select, and purchase curricular materials in school year 25-26. Track 2 grantees will establish and meet with their PRISM Curriculum Council and plan to launch and roll out full participation in DESE's Evaluation and Selection Network. Only those who meet the federal CLSD eligibility requirements should apply for track 2. And finally, track 3, year 1. And again, just to remind everyone that year 1 refers to July 1st to August 31st, 2025, is for applicants who have HQIM already in place, and they are interested in increased support for their implementation. Track 3 grantees will establish and meet with their PRISM Curriculum Council, develop and/or refine their instructional vision, their literacy plan for their core ELA literacy block, and finally engage in curriculum-specific professional learning to support implementation of existing HQIM. And again, only those who meet federal CLSD eligibility should apply for track 3. If awarded continuation, in years 2 through 4, grantees can expect to engage in a landscape analysis of the current state of their curriculum and instruction in ELA literacy, conduct teacher-facing curriculum-based professional learning supported by their PRISM curriculum and instruction coach, establish lesson prep routines, and engage in regular ongoing progress monitoring and goal setting. Now let's dive into the PRISM III fund use. Each track will have a unique budget guide that outlines how the activities will be used. All 3 tracks have common activities funded through the grant. You'll see those listed here in the first column. This information can be also found in the RFP and the budgeting guide. It is important to note that when you are referring to the budgeting guide and budgeting calculators, please make sure that you are looking at the budgeting guide and calculator for the specific grant, PRISM II or PRISM III, and the specific track, tracks 1, 2, or 3 for PRISM III that you are intending to apply for. The general fund uses for PRISM III include stipends for educators to serve on the PRISM Curriculum Council, stipends for educators to support PRISM work that go beyond their contractual hours or duties, substitute coverage funding for educators to support PRISM III work during contractual hours, stipends for educators attending PD or working beyond contractual hours, purchase of selected curricular materials, if track 1, and leadership coaching. Track-specific fund uses include, for track 1, instructional materials procurement. Funding covers 50% of procurement costs, up to $400,000 per district for high-quality core ELA literacy curricular materials. The awardee is responsible for the remaining cost. I will now turn it back over to Octavia to give you information pertaining to application components.
So for this section, I'm going to focus on the application components for both PRISM II and III. PRISM II and III applications should be completed on GEMS. On GEMS, you will be able to enter a budget and respond to application questions, as well as upload key related documents. Information about what and how much to budget for can be found on the PRISM II and III RFPs. For now, I will focus on the application questions and what the grant review team will be looking for. The first part focuses on gathering the primary contact and leadership details for your grant application. Here's what you'll need. You'll need a primary grant contact. This person we will contact for any questions about your proposal. You'll need to provide their name, role, email, and phone number. You'll need a PRISM lead. If your application is successful, you'll need to designate a PRISM lead who will be responsible for overseeing the PRISM II or III initiative in your district. You'll need to provide their name, role, email, and phone number as well. Consortium information. If your district is applying as a part of a consortium, you'll need to list the other LEAs involved. If not, simply indicate NA. Grade band. Specify the grade level your application is targeting. Track selection. Choose whether you're applying for track 1, track 2, track 3. Participating schools. List all schools that will be involved in the initiative, whether in your district or as a part of a consortium. The second part contains narrative questions about your district's needs for the grant and your approach to curriculum and equity. You need to describe why your district, charter, collaborative, or consortium wants to participate in PRISM II or III and how it aligns with your goals. For tracks 1 and 3, for PRISM II and III, explain how you selected the high quality instructional materials you plan to use. If you're part of the Implement MA network, include a link to your progress tracker. Discuss any disparities in literacy achievement based on factors like race, socioeconomic status, language status, or disability, and how your district has worked to address them. The final part focuses on literacy, leadership, and professional learning. You will let us know if you have an existing literacy leadership team, what their roles are, and how they will evolve to support the new curriculum. Be sure to include the roles of principals in this process. Describe the professional learning opportunities your district, charter, or collaborative provides, including contracted professional development days and common planning time for teachers. Highlight the types of support your educators will need to effectively implement the new curriculum, especially for students who are historically underserved, such as students with disabilities or multilingual learners. Share how you've involved diverse stakeholders in previous initiatives and how you plan to engage them in PRISM II and III. For track 1 applicants, you will need to submit an itemized quote from the publisher of the HQIM you select, you plan to purchase. This funding will cover up to 50% of the procurement costs, up to $400,000. For tracks 1 and 3 applicants, you will need to describe your evaluation and selection process if you participated in the DESE's evaluation and selection network. Again, you will need to include a progress tracker. I will hand it back over to Lori.
Thank you, Octavia. So please note that applications are due by 5 p.m. for PRISM II, Monday, May 19th, and for PRISM III, due Wednesday, May 21st. All applications must be submitted on GEMS. Applications submitted via email will not be considered. For support on navigating GEMS, please check out the PRISM website and our grants management website as well. In addition to this webinar, there are a number of supports on the PRISM website that you can access throughout the development of your application. First, there will be office hours held weekly on Zoom on Tuesdays from 3 to 4 p.m. Folks must register beforehand. The registration link for those office hours can also be found on our PRISM website. On the PRISM website, you will also find application supports such as a frequently asked questions document, a PRISM overview document, and other one-pagers and guides that share considerations for developing your applications and developing a consortium. Lastly, we will be posting a number of application videos on the PRISM website that will explain the application questions, important RFP documents, requirements for the grant, and again, competitive priorities, as well as considerations for answering any application questions effectively. As we come to the close of our webinar this morning, I invite you to put any last questions using the Q&A feature. My colleagues and I will be collecting all questions And as a reminder, due to the competitive nature of the PRISM II and III grants, all questions will be answered in writing on a frequently asked question document on the PRISM website. I also invite you to please email me with any questions regarding PRISM III and Octavia with any questions regarding PRISM II. We're happy to address any questions you have. Because the competitive nature of the grant, again, questions will be answered using the frequently asked questions document that will be posted publicly on our PRISM website. After submitting your questions, you are free to log off. Thank you again for your interest in PRISM, and we're excited to support you throughout your application journey. We'll give folks just another minute or two to type in any final questions that you may have. Thank you again for joining us this morning. We appreciate the questions coming in and your engagement. All right, the questions seem to be slowing down. We'll give about another 60 seconds. And if any questions come to you as you're going through the application process, please feel free to email either Octavia or myself.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us again. Enjoy the rest of your day.